subscribe.
My husband and I had been married for 8 years but couldn't have children due to health issues. Last year, while visiting a Taoist mountain, we met a Taoist priest. He looked at us for a while, as though he was deep in thought, and finally said, "You two share a deep bond, carried over from your past life. It's a beautiful connection, but..." He paused, gazing at the forest in the distance, seemingly searching for the right words. I couldn't wait any longer and asked, "Master, is something wrong? Please tell us." The priest sighed and said, "Some places have a unique energy, a perfect balance of yin and yang. If you move to a neighborhood with green hills behind it and clear water in front and live on a south-facing lower floor, life might become easier for you." He hesitated before adding, "When you get there, hang this on your balcony." He pulled out a white jade pendant and gave it to me. I was puzzled and asked, "Master, what does this mean? Can you explain it more clearly?" He shook his head and replied calmly, "You'll understand when the time comes. Just follow the natural course." With that, he turned and walked away, his light steps making him seem like a gust of wind disappearing into the woods. Though his tone was calm, his words carried an undeniable authority. My husband and I discussed it at length and decided that moving might bring positive changes to our lives. So we began planning the move. Our city wasn't large, and the only neighborhood that matched the priest's description had green hills behind it and a winding, clear stream flowing through. The streets were clean and quiet, with houses scattered harmoniously across the landscape. The place felt peaceful and a little isolated. The move went smoothly. Once settled, I carefully hung the jade pendant on the balcony wall, feeling a glimmer of hope. Maybe this would bring us good fortune. Perhaps even the child we had longed for. A few days later, our neighbor knocked on our door. He was an elegant man in his 50s with a kind smile. He brought us homemade snacks and warmly welcomed us to the neighborhood. Inviting him in for a chat, I found him polite but reserved. He mentioned that his work involved escorting guests. As he left, he gently reminded us, "At night, make sure to close your windows and try not to look at the balcony." His tone was calm but carried a strange weight. Soon after, I noticed something strange. Every night, our neighbor would place an old wooden chair on his balcony, but by morning it would vanish without a trace. At first, I thought it was just a habit, but as I paid closer attention, it became increasingly odd. "Honey, have you noticed the chair on the neighbor's balcony?" I asked my husband. "What chair?" he replied, confused. "He puts it out every night, but by morning it's gone," I explained. "Maybe he likes to sit out and enjoy the breeze, then takes it back inside in the morning," my husband suggested casually. It sounded reasonable, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My curiosity only grew stronger. Every night we secretly watched the balcony. I noticed that the chair was always placed in the exact same spot, regardless of wind or rain. This eerie consistency made me feel even more unsettled. Eventually, we decided to install a discreet camera on our balcony, pointing toward the neighbors. On the first night, the footage seemed ordinary. At 10 p.m., the neighbor placed the chair as usual and returned inside. For several hours, nothing happened. Then, at 4 a.m., the image suddenly became blurry, as though covered by a dense fog. Slowly, a shadowy figure appeared next to the chair. Its shape looked like a person but wasn't quite human. It moved slowly and sat down. The most chilling part was that after the figure sat, both it and the chair vanished, as if swallowed by the air. I froze, fear gripping me, and turned to my husband, who looked equally pale. After a moment, he whispered, "Maybe the camera glitched." But his tone betrayed his unease. The next day, the neighbor knocked on our door again. This time, he brought a bowl of steaming soup. "It was so quiet on your balcony last night. Not even the lights were on," he remarked, his gaze piercing. My heart raced, but I forced a smile and replied, "Yes, we've been tired lately and went to bed early." He smiled faintly, set down the soup and said, "You're curious, aren't you? About the chairs and the recordings? Let me explain." He looked at us calmly and began, "I'm a ferryman. My job is to guide those whose time has come and help their souls move on peacefully. The jade pendant on your balcony was given to you by the Master as a signal to me. It tells me your time is near. The chairs you see are pathways prepared for departing souls. When they sit on the chair, they are transported to where they need to go. He paused briefly before adding, "Without my help, those who die suddenly get stuck between life and death. Their pain and resentment grow, harming not only themselves but those around them. This is why the Master directed you here, to ensure you can leave peacefully." That night, we watched the footage again. This time, the faces on the screen were unmistakable. They were ours, pale, rigid, and lifeless. I turned to my husband, trembling. "Is it true? Are we?" After a long silence, he looked at me with a gentle smile and said, "If this is our fate, at least we're together." Tears filled my eyes, and I nodded. The neighbor appeared once more, softly saying, "It's time." Following his instructions, we each sat on a wooden chair. As he chanted, the world around us became surreal. The surroundings blurred like ripples on water, and a warm light enveloped us. All fear and regret melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. Our shapes slowly faded into the light like stars disappearing into the sky. At that moment, all our pain and sorrow were washed away, and we became part of an endless cycle of renewal. It wasn't an end, but a new beginning.